can't
fine.
see what they are. I can just see
Uh,
like
You
I
have
can
to.
see slivers of something. That's all.
Yeah, no, some other people have asked that. I can't fit vinyls in the milk crates. They're too big, but I don't know, maybe back in the day they were big enough because I've seen it, but no, my vinyls are not in milk crates. They won't fit.
Oh. We have a bookcase here too. We have a couple, and I like that because I feel like bookcases are just not a thing anymore.
Vi-
People read everything online.
Well, they're also very big and hard to move. So with the milk
Airplane.
bookcase, I could take it apart and then they become containers for the books.
Heck
So
yeah, that's awesome.
I'm not.
It's
it's
a
weird
moving
how
box and a decoration and a
it's weird how vinyls have come back into vogue. It's mostly among hipsters that are like, "Oh, we're dreaming of this before time," you know. And I get it. Like I'm right there with you. I have some vinyls, and I have a vinyl player she got me for my birthday one year. But
that you never use. And that's exactly
I
what
know
happens though. Like people want it so they have it and then they never use it because you don't need to.
it's more for
Everything's an
nostalgia.
MP3.
It's
Yeah.
it's more of a decoration. And then if I want to, some days when I'm super high, I'm like, you know what? I'm gonna listen to Bob Seger on vinyl because why not?
For me, yeah, I'm not coming about it from a hipster way because all of my vinyl stuff is inherited from my girlfriend. So she
Nice.
got me into it, but then she doesn't like rap. So I started finding the rap albums that I like on vinyl
Oh, nice.
and collecting those because there is like a element of those where like I've seen certain albums that I like change because they have to like remix them or licensing things change. And then those songs are gone off the streaming platform. So it's like might as well have the original copy
Hell
like
yeah.
taken away.
No, there's
That's
something
awesome.
to it to having the original, especially not even CDs. Like I know a couple people that own a bunch of CDs just because they want the physical
Oh
medium.
yeah. I'm
But
there.
like there's something different about vinyl because it's actually physical. Like the needle moving across it is a physical thing that's happening. It's not some laser, you know, it's crazy. And it sounds so much different. I wouldn't say better. It depends on your speakers and the quality of the vinyl, but there is something different about listening to it.
I think there's some I feel like there's when you said there's something to having something real and original with AI now taking over everything and changing everything and making everything so fake. It's nice to have something that you know someone made from the bottom of their heart, whether you like it or hate it, it doesn't matter. They made that and created it and put it out there, and that's the original thing. That's what they did.
Yeah.
And that's just nice.
Oh yeah. Oh, I love it. And I don't have a expensive record player, but one day when I'm in a nice house that I think I'm gonna live in for a while, I'll probably invest in that. But yeah, no.
Nice.
For now, I just got a cheap little Victrola that's probably doing more damage to my records than anything else. So,
I feel like that's probably what I got for you. But
No, you got me one that it looks retro as shit. Like it's like wood grain, but it's got
yeah.
Bluetooth capability and like optical out and all this stuff. But when I use it, it's actually easier to use the analog like RCA jacks or whatever. And it sounds great. I love it. You can hear the warble and everything in it.
I wish I had my parents' old record player. That's how we used to listen to the Muppet Christmas carols when I was a little kid. Like we'd find the records and put them on and listen to John Denver sing with the Muppets when I was like 5. It was
oh
my
yeah,
favorite thing.
What
And
was
then
the one that
we had
you'd
the little
listen to during Star Fox?
okay, that was a CD. That's when CD
Oh,
players like
okay.
first came out though, because I'm old, and it was Michael Bolton, his first album, Time, Love, and Tenderness. So I could beat all of Star
Why
Fox,
are you gay?
not Star Fox 64, Star Fox on Super Nintendo. My parents would play it, and then I realized I could beat it from start to finish when I started the CD. So like when they left one day, I was like, I'm gonna just do this. So I made it a thing where I
like
might have autism. Like I don't know what my problem is, but I'd put it on and start it, and I would know where I was supposed to be based on which song I was at. I was like, fuck them. I gotta
yeah,
catch up. I
yeah.
have
That's
to stop dying.
you have your own Pink Floyd Wizard of Oz sync.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. I was like, okay, the end riff of the final song, I have to be like killing the bad guy. Like it has to be happening. They have to be flying out and being happy and chirping the way they do.
How do you know the Star Fox people weren't listening to Michael Bolton when they programmed it?
Maybe they were. Who knows?
Hey, do you have on Zoom? Do you use Zoom that often? Do you have original sound on? Because I would recommend that. it seems to sound a lot better when we do that. I can't tell from my end.
Well, I normally don't even think about this because I know on my end it's all going to sound good because I have the Rodecaster, but for your
You do
purpose,
sound good.
it probably
You do it. It's just when both of us talk, it steps on your audio, which is really weird, and it's a thing we've been battling for a long time.
Maybe that was. Is it still happening? Let's all
Let
talk
me
at the
see.
same time.
Hello.
Hello. Yes, we're
Hello.
all talking at the same time. It's very hard to just talk without knowing what to say.
And I don't think we'll know except until we're done.
Yeah,
Why-
it's
It's
weird.
like in post-production.
Zoom is old faithful. We love it because everybody has it and it works fine every time. But there is problems that I really wish I could fix. But
Yeah. Well, I just switched it to original sound, so I don't know if you're already noticing a difference or you noticed a different. Oh, wait, it says on, off, on. Okay, so now it's original sound for musicians is on. So maybe it's making
yeah.
a difference.
It doesn't
might.
sound different in our ears. It sounds different later. Like when Joe goes to edit it, that's when he realizes like, oh, we talked at the same time and we could all hear each other, but in post-production we can't.
No, and we've had, you know how reviews are. There's certain people that are like, oh, it sounds terrible when you talk over each other. I'm like, well, hey, come give me lessons on being a fucking audio
Yeah, but
engineer.
that's how
I'll fix it.
conversations go. It's not like we're saying stop talking. I need to talk now. We're just all talking at the same time, having a good old time. And I'm from Massachusetts, and that's just how you fucking talk there. And
With a lot of F words in
you're
between.
from New England. You know that. That's how you go.
Yeah. Oh, same thing in Connecticut, for sure.
Yeah.
They're just a little more rich up there, huh?
Well, what it is you're still listening. That's what I was trying to tell Joe. I'm like, when I'm talking over someone, as you say, and they're talking over me, we're still listening to each other talk while also saying what we're saying. I'm not saying that is great for a podcast.
No,
it's
no,
probably
I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about the actual audio quality.
But that's how the New Englander brain works that way.
What Zoom does is it cuts off the other person, so you can't even hear what they're saying. That's the problem. If you could both hear each other, that'd be one thing. But to the listener, it cuts off the other person, and then it just goes. Blah, 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 blah,
Who
like
created
that.
Zoom? They're obviously not from New
Chinese.
England.
The Chinese.
All right, hold on one second.
All right, no
Okay.
problem.
Well, hello out there, people. We will get started here soon. Technical difficulties as usual.
Boner.
Oh, we're live right now.
Oh yeah, been live for a bit.
Oops. Hello.
So we'll get this going, but it takes some time. And the cool thing is, for audio listeners, I edited all this out so they don't have to hear this bullshit.
This is only for like the 2 live listeners. That we
Yeah,
have?
yeah.
Cool.
Good for them.
Sweet.
The live
What up,
people
retarded
are
faggots?
already with us.
What's that?
The live people are already with us already. Are we?
A little bit. Like dude, we're pretty new to YouTube as far as doing
Right. Oh, okay.
things.
Yeah.
And Rockfin, I've stated before on the show, I don't know
Yes,
where
science!
it's going. Oh, that was an accident. Sorry. But no, I don't know where Rockfin's going, but it doesn't look like it's going up. So haven't been really paying attention to it that much.
Yeah, I have not uploaded anything to Rockfin lately, and yeah, I don't think I will be either. So
I know it's too much. It's too much of a extra job on top of everything else, and like, there's nobody there anymore. It's like a ghost town up in there.
Should we
Like,
just take all our Raycoin and bail or what?
probably
What do you say, guys? What's the value at right now?
not much? That's the other problem.
Wow.
All right, well, let's get this going. So Brandon might jump in here in a bit. I'll try to keep an eye on my phone and see if he texts me or something. But all right, let's just do this thing.
Right.
Well, hey there, people. Welcome back to Legit Bat. I'm Joe. Jen is with me here. Yes. Yes. Our kind of guest host tonight might be Brandon. We'll see if he jumps in later. And you all know him from Expanding Reality, of course. But a couple things before we get going. One of them is the Batfather just came out of surgery yesterday for his butt cancer, and he's doing pretty good. He's up and around, and he does have to have a permanent colostomy bag, which nobody is a huge fan of, as far as I know, of, among people that have had poop bags. Not a big thing. Or maybe it is. I don't know. But he's doing good. Thanks everybody for the donations that you sent in. It's very appreciated. My mom apparently cried when she got all the donations you sent in, so that was really cool.
Well,
Not
they were
that she
super.
cried, but
I'm sure she did because they were super stressed.
oh yeah,
They chose the most expensive hospital, but they had to because cancer. So they were
yeah.
worried about how they were going to pay for the hotel. So super
And
helpful.
insurance,
Thank
of
you.
course, is being a dick in the ass like usual, so you know how that goes. But anyway, thanks everybody for your T's and P's and crystals in your butts and everything else you do. We appreciate all of it. I would not like to hear about it, but we do appreciate it. The other thing is, I was trying to go. I'm trying to like branch out and do different things on social media. One of them is opening up an X account, formerly known as Twitter. And so we have that, but I learned from Ghost, from My Third Eye, that we have to have a blue check mark to go live on there. So that probably won't be happening, but maybe I'll upload our episodes or clips or something up there. So that's at LegitBat on X. I think that's what it is. There's also a TikTok account now. I don't know if I've ever mentioned that before, but it's at LegitBatPod on TikTok. And I don't do much on there either because I don't really know what I'm doing. And they seem to be more fucking Nazi than Instagram, even. It's crazy. I think I did tell that story actually, but if you want to help the Batfather out with his butt cancer, there will be a link in the show notes and you can donate. But as for tonight's show, what we're doing tonight, also we're live on YouTube again every Thursday. For the most part, if you want to come join in the live chat, come jump in on Thursdays on YouTube until we get booted. But our guest tonight is the returning champion who we have not had in at least a year, maybe 2, maybe 4. But it's been a long time. And it is Mark Steeves from My Family Thinks I'm Crazy. Welcome back, buddy. So for anybody who doesn't know you or what you do, besides being Sam Tripoli's booker, because that is just a side job you do. Your main job is doing this, what you do.
Yeah, well, we could talk about side jobs because I did recently get a pretty cool new gig, a couple new gigs. This year's been a lot of ups and downs, good and bad. But yeah, the podcast, My Family Thinks I'm Crazy, is my main thing. I booked for Sam Tripoli on Tinfoil Hat. Recently, I started working with Danny Polishuk on his podcast, Low Value Mail. So every Monday, he goes live on YouTube, and I'm the guy answering the calls because it's kind of like coast to coast where callers can call in and ask the guest questions. And so, yeah, that's been a lot of fun to be a part of that. And then I'm also working on, I really shouldn't say who, but I'm working on a podcast with somebody who is sort of a famous musician, to me, an incredibly famous musician, but not everybody's cup of tea genre. So, but if you're a rap fan and you know anything about rap, you should know who this rapper is. And just as the cards, are played, it just so turns out that I'm going to be working with him to create a podcast. So we've already recorded a few episodes. I'm on the podcast, but I'm also producing it, so I'm not going to be on every episode. But hopefully by 2025, I will be on. And I only say that because we're, as these things go, it's like, we record something and then we're like, oh, geez, it's a process, right? But yeah, by 2025, we should come out with this podcast. It's going to be called the Shorecast. And I'll tell you guys, this with this rapper. He's in a group that I'm wearing the shirt of, Army of the Pharaohs. His name's Apathy, and he's just always been, Connecticut and kind of like representing the state. So I've always been a fan of him for that and several other reasons. But yeah, it's just cool. Obviously working with Sam Tripoli is awesome. But now I'm also working with this, rapper. So it's like, the same kind of feeling for working with Sam where it's like, oh gosh, I'm a fan of this person. Now I know them, the same thing's happening all over again. So it's pretty cool, but I can't really say much about it because the show's not public yet. But he does have a Patreon. If anybody is a fan of his, I would recommend signing up on the Patreon because that's where you're going to see, the first stuff published. So yeah,
Nice.
lot going on lately.
That's awesome, dude. Yeah, like I said, it's been a while, so I had no idea what was going on with you or your podcast. Your background is wildly different. We were talking before the show about how you're not up in a mountain anymore, right? Because last time we talked to you, weren't you up on a mountain somewhere?
No, yeah, this is the same place. I'm on the mountain, but yeah, no, this is the same apartment. I guess maybe the chair looks makes it look different, or maybe I
You
don't know.
had more lights. You had more lights or something going on last time. I couldn't tell what was going
No,
on.
we've podcasted from several different locations though, because when I first met you guys, I was in a different location, and then there was a period where I was in a different apartment from this one. But for the past year, I've been in this apartment, and I think the last time we spoke, it was while I was in this apartment, probably about a year ago, maybe a little bit sooner than that, maybe in the winter time. But
Well, my memory is kind of like yours. The short term is just kind of fried at this point. Like I'm old, so
all
I don't
right.
even try to remember anything anymore.
Well, no, it is. I mean, I change things up every so often, so yeah, it's probably not exactly the same. And I'm also wearing these raw optics lenses now. Always, ever since I got them, I only wear them because it blocks out blue light, and I want to just keep my mind and my eyes as healthy as can be. Since I don't always take my health to the utmost extent, I smoke and you sometimes drink. So, but the least I can do is not be punished by these screens that I'm constantly looking at. So I recommend the same for you guys. You don't necessarily have to go with designer frames. There's other options, but yeah, I had the guy on my podcast. So one of the perks, as you know, of having a podcast, sometimes people send you free stuff, and that this is one of the things I'm super grateful for because I mean, it's changed my life just in the past 2 or 3 weeks that I've been wearing them. Like I don't stay up as late as I used to, and I think that's ultimately a healthier thing. I like being a night owl, but I don't like staying up till the crack of dawn working on the podcast. So these glasses are
Yeah.
helping me stay up just to the right amount of time, finish my work, and go to bed.
Oh,
Yeah,
I like
that's
that. I think I need that for my job because I have two giant screens in front of my face all day, and I can I can tell
Mm.
I'm not on my phone all day. I'm just staring at this computer screen for 8 hours, but
still blue light.
yeah, exactly. And I can tell when I look away from it that I can't see cars in front of me. Like when I was even talking about your background and I was like, what are those vinyls? And you're like, oh, they're books. I just couldn't see them. I still can barely tell what they are. And I have a very low prescription that I'm not wearing right now for glasses, but it's like a negative 0.25 or 0.5. It's nothing. So I should be able to see that. And I feel like it's a direct effect of coming off of 8 hours of staring at a computer screen. So that might help.
No, yeah, for sure. Well, and I know just even like the light aside, you're not supposed to be looking at, I mean, because essentially you're looking at a flat surface and your eyes are trained are meant to be looking at a three-dimensional landscape with all sorts of things standing in the foreground, not, just a flat plane, right? So that too is bad for people's vision over time. And that's why something like driving on a regular basis can be really good for your eyes because you're constantly looking ahead and gauging how far things are away and distances and so forth. So yeah, I don't know, I've had a little streak of health related shows in the past few months which I think are related to some, I don't know, just getting older. I just turned 30, so I'm like, I mean, that's not even old, but it just feels like, like, oh, well, maybe I should start caring more about this kind of stuff now that I'm in my 30s.
That's true. You're right though. 30 is not old, but it is the time where you realize like, hey, I'm not a teenager anymore. And you're moving into the stages where
Adulthood.
in the future, well, no, he's already an adult obviously, but you're moving into the stages where you're going to have to start caring. And it's like saving money. I mean, if you just blow all your money for the first 20 years of your life, you're screwed. And you have to kind of save, and it's like saving, it's like putting, I don't know, investments into yourself, if
The
you will.
other,
So,
there's the, I don't know, biohack that I've done recently, aside from the lenses, is the toothpaste I used to use was expensive. I'd buy it, pretty often. Now I have this tooth powder that is made from like eggshells and coconut husk or something like that. And it's supposed to be way better for your teeth and even like heal cavities because it's like calcium is what your teeth are made of, and eggshells are like a pretty easy way for your body to get calcium. So there's another, I don't know, conspiracy fringe kind of health thing that I found recently that's definitely, I can testify that the benefits are real. Like I noticed a huge difference. My old toothpaste used to leave my mouth feeling like kind of like beat up, like my gums would bleed and whatnot. Whereas now, like, and those were all natural, healthy, fluoride-free toothpaste. Like though I thought those were the solution, and they wouldn't really do what I expected toothpaste to do. But this stuff is great, so I recommend people check that. I think it's called Van Man Company. That's just one brand. I'm sure there's other brands that sell these tooth powders, but yeah, there's so many ways that like we're being sold down the river with this commercial society we live in. I'm not necessarily like some kind of hippie communist who's like, oh, screw capitalism. Like I'm all for making money and buying things and having things. But, a lot of the stuff that we're offered is like the fast food version of what we can have, So I've
Oh
just
yeah,
been,
and that goes with everything too, not just food and products and everything else. Everything is like fast food. I heard somebody talking the other day about fast food spirituality and how like some of the new age stuff is like more like fast food for the soul than chicken soup or whatever you want to call it. But I did want to get into that. What you've been into lately, since we haven't had you on the show in a while, but that reminded me of the toothpaste thing that fluoride, I put this on Instagram, was recently deemed a neurotoxin. Oh my God, you
Weird.
don't fucking say. I'm like, dude, everybody's been saying that for, well, not everybody, obviously, but like everybody who is a crazy conspiracy theorist
I
has
was
been
gonna
saying
say, yeah,
fluoride is bad for you. And they're like, nah, put it in the water. It's fine because if you drink it, it'll help your teeth for some fucking reason. Anyway, so that's another thing that's come out within the last like week or two. And it just seems like we're all sitting back at this point watching it and going, all right, which one's going to come true next? I
yeah.
don't know.
why
Get your
aren't more
bingo
people
cards.
revolting and saying, hey, what the fuck? Why has this been in our
Because they drank
water?
fluoride for
For the-
fucking 80 years.
Okay.
They don't
Well,
care.
I
No,
haven't,
that's
but
the truth. I mean, the sad thing is so many people just take these things for granted that someone like me comes along who, for whatever weird reason, I intuitively found that information and thought it was true despite what everyone else told me. And then I made, steps to avoid fluoride, took it out of my toothpaste, stopped drinking water that had fluoride in it, even down to like researching which bottled water companies had fluoride in it, which most of them do, surprisingly. So, yeah, I'm not surprised to hear this, but often people like myself are 10 years ahead of these kind of, oh, it's a neurotoxin. We have to change the whole, world because of it, right? Like now there's some sort of way they can exploit it or replace it. Maybe they're replacing it with something even worse, So now they're like, oh, we don't even need fluoride anymore. So let's just, let the truth be known and move on. While meanwhile, hydrochlorine just times 6 is doing, what fluoride did even worse, right? But no, that's actually good for us now, right? So I mean, I'm not, that's just a made up example, but that's kind of where my paranoid, suspicious mind always goes is like, even with the health stuff, like I put these on and I still have the thought of like, well, is this going to change my life for the worse? Cause like, yeah, it
Yeah.
seems great now, like, oh, blue light is great or bad. So these are good, right? But is
It's
that
like the cholesterol thing in the 80s and 90s where they're like, don't eat eggs because cholesterol is bad. And meanwhile, like recently, I've heard a lot of people talking about how eggs are almost the perfect food. Like you could literally exist on chicken eggs if you had to because it's so complete in the nutrition that's in there, including a shitload of cholesterol for your fucking brain.
Yeah, well, the other thing that goes right along with that is fat too. Like fat's been so demonized for multiple reasons, like, and there's a good reason to not want to be obese, but there's fats in our foods that are healthy for us that have been like vilified. And I learned something pretty recently, and I feel like I wish I'd known this sooner, that fats are really important for your brain. Certain types
Yeah.
of fats, not all fats, but like, there were times when I was younger where I would get really bored or I'd feel like I couldn't think, and I wondered to myself, like, was this because I had a low fat diet? Because all of the propaganda crap, or at that time when I was growing up, young, like a kid age, like, I wasn't eating a healthy diet. I was eating whatever junk was in the cabinet, right? So I
Oh yeah.
definitely was on a a low fat diet or whatever it was, so high sugar for sure. But yeah, I think about all that now, and I wonder, how you can reverse it. And surprisingly, there are all kinds of crazy, everything from peeing on yourself to, who knows what kind of medical mystery solution. But from a lot of guests on my own show, I've heard detoxing is like the best way to go about it. Fasting, not so much. Some people say fasting's not great for you, but I just naturally don't eat a lot. And I wonder, maybe that's my metabolism, or if I'm just naturally wired this way, whatever it is. So I kind of feel like I'm already in a, a mode of fasting, but I am curious, like, what I need to change about that, because I don't want to end up withering away at a young age. So I've been
I don't know.
eating more.
I think if you keep eating fats, though, fats is great for you. Fats are great for you. The problem and the reason I think they were demonized is because they were introducing so many carbs and fake foods
And sugar.
during that time. And sugar, yes. But that will keep, so if you eat fat, great, fantastic, yay. But then if you eat a ton of sugar and carbs, it takes all the fat, it processes all of the carbs first, your body. It will take the carbs and go, okay, I'm going to take this, all the sugar, whatever. And all the fats just sit back and wait. And that's how people get fat, because the fat gets stored in their body. So it doesn't get processed. And then they keep doing that same routine. Whereas back in the day, if cavemen were even a thing, either way, when people can go on diets and do this and prove it to be true. If you just eat meat and maybe some vegetables and don't eat any carbs, maybe some here and there, if you're actually exercising, working out, running around, doing stuff, your body will process all of those things normally. It's a different thing than just sitting back, eating a steak, which is great for you, and then eating a box of Cheez-Its, which your body will prioritize taking the Cheez-Its out of your body, and all of the fat from the steak will sit in your body and you'll collect fat.
Well, it's the same as like the Inuits or Eskimos, whatever is PC to call the Alaskan fucking natives, but they used to eat fucking whale blubber. Like that was a staple of their diet, was blubber. And you know why? Because it kept them warm. Because they lived in Alaska. So
What gave them energy?
yeah,
Fat produces so much
if
energy.
you're living in I don't know, somewhere along the equator, maybe don't eat as much fat because you're going to be in the sun, you're going to be warm. It's fine. You can probably eat a little more carbs or whatever. This is not medical advice, by the way. But just looking at how people eat across the world is so different. And I would take way more advice from the native tribes because they had to survive. They had to figure out what to eat to survive, living wherever they lived. So wherever you live, look at how the native people ate, and then try to model it in a modern way after that, and you'll probably be okay. It's also specific to the person, like you were saying, Mark, because you're a big, tall, scrawny motherfucker. You're like 7'8". I don't know. I'm 5'5", so you might as well be 9 feet tall. I don't know.
Yeah.
But
That's exaggerated, but go ahead.
but when you're talking about like your calorie needs, it is different to everybody. And the stupid food pyramid and, 2,000 calories a day. Are you trying to say that 2,000 calories a day is the same across the whole world? Bullshit. Some people need 7,000. Some people need 500 because you're fucking 5 feet tall. Like it doesn't. It's different based on everybody, and like you were saying, like it's kind of more like you eat how you feel. Like, do I feel better eating this? That's probably the way to go. Oh, when I eat a shitload of pizza, do I feel like ass and just want to sit on the couch? Probably not the best thing.
Well, it's hard though because our brain tricks us into telling us we want it because it's an addiction type thing.
Well, that's different.
If your brain's not addicted, it will tell you exactly what you need. Like I've heard so many stories of pregnant women that will the cravings that they have. It's because
because
they
they need
need
a
a
certain
certain thing
thing,
in their
yeah,
body. Yeah. When they're like, I crave pickles, it's because they need that,
the
the
sodium or the
salt or what.
vinegar,
Yeah,
yeah.
exactly.
Yeah, so it just depends on where you're at and what you're doing. But that's why I tried to experiment. I've talked about it on the show before, but where I experimented with, let's try the carnivore diet. Let's see what happens. I found out that for me, my build, my stature, fat and protein does me great. I not only lose weight, I feel better. I don't have heartburn, all that stuff. As soon as I start eating carbs or processed bread or pasta or all that stuff, I start feeling like shit and I immediately bloat up. I immediately get a fucking beer gut over some pasta. It's crazy. If I don't do that for a couple days, I go back down to looking normal. It's wild.
I think most people do that, though. I think pasta in general and those kind of processed foods make us all inflamed.
I
That's why
know,
there's
but
a
like
cancer
I've
rise
also
too.
tried vegetarian and that does not work for me at all. I don't know if it's because I burn too many calories at my job or whatever, but if I tried to go all vegetarian, it would not work out well for me. I need fats and protein for what I'm doing. So I respect vegetarianism. Go ahead, do that. Don't eat animals because you're better or whatever. But it's not for me. Have you tried it? Have you tried that? Being a
I
vegan or
was yeah,
vegetarian?
when I was younger, I worked at Whole Foods and I just like kind of felt like that was intuitively the thing, but I never did it the right way. I definitely still to this day have issues eating some vegetables, but I've grown to like a variety of vegetables and but no, I'm not that type of person. I can't. I need meat. And I noticed the few months that I wasn't eating any meat, I was just not myself. I didn't feel totally healthy, but it's hard to tell when you're young, your body kind of does a lot to compensate for whatever lack of health you're in, so you don't really notice those kind of things as much when you're in your early 20s. So I was able to kind of float by, but it was the same way that I was floating by eating junk food, So veganism didn't like change my life in a huge way. But I will say it probably delayed my what would you call it, like the hormones, like because my beard and my mustache only grew in when I was like 23 or 24, which is pretty late. I knew kids in high school who had a full beard and mustache, and I wonder sometimes like maybe it's because I had a low meat diet when I was younger and I just didn't have enough testosterone growing. And then when I got more into eating meat on a regular basis, that's when my facial hair grew in and my hair grew even longer than it needed to be. So, yeah, I mean, yeah, it's crazy, but yeah, no. So I've noticed it in my own life in a positive way. But also it's about eating clean because like the same thing that you say about like pasta and all that, like if you were eating European pasta, it might not go that way because in Europe they don't process their food the same way we do. They don't pesticide the crops and all this other unnecessary stuff that goes into it. And I heard something really interesting. I don't think it was on my own podcast. I think it was Topher Gardner on Tinfoil Hat, where he was saying that bugs go for plants that are unhealthy. They don't go for healthy plants because healthy plants have natural defenses. So if you think about it, all these companies, not only are they giving you a plant that has pesticides on it, but they're giving you a plant that to begin with is unhealthy because it needs pesticides, right? Because the bugs only target plants that are sick. So they're selling you, sick wheat. It's the equivalent of eating like a sick cow. You wouldn't want to eat a sick, gangly looking cow. You want the fat, healthy cow, right? So it's the same with our crops, our plants that we eat. And, this isn't available to everyone, unfortunately, but depending on where you live, you can find farmers who are growing food that will get you into a better state of mind and a better state of health because your whole foundation will improve, on a biological level, and you're supporting your own community. That's the other big thing with. So I've been trying to do that. You mentioned me living in the mountains. That's been a big change for me from where I used to live in the suburbs. Yeah, we had kind of farmers markets and things like that, but you really had to drive a considerable distance to get healthy food aside from like Whole Foods, right? And even Whole Foods I have issues with because of, Amazon owning them, and a lot of
I
the
have a lot of
Oh,
issues with
wow.
Whole Foods. Besides that, it's a lot of fucking white Karens.
well, that
That's where I
depends
stop.
on where you live, but yeah, I get that. I mean, I've noticed that that factor has gone down now that I live in a different region, but yeah, no, it's just the price, and also the fact that they all come from Mexico in a lot of cases, which I get. I mean, in a lot of seasons, you can only grow stuff in New Mexico, Arizona, Mexico, right? You guys down there
Mhm.
in the Southwest are like the fruit basket of the United States because you stay,
We're in
perfect.
the P&W, son.
We're not.
We're way
Yeah,
up north.
we're by
Oh, you
Oregon.
guys, weren't you down there for a while though, or am I just confused? I always do that. I always
Because
confuse.
when we say we're from California, everyone thinks it's like LA, but we're like
That's
really close to the Oregon border.
We're damn near close
So
to the
we're in the mountains
P&W.
as well. Well, we're
you guys
actually not
still
in
have
the mountains, but we're surrounded by mountains. The
right.
mountains are like 45 minutes away from us. So,
Well,
like we're right there.
California is still all fruits, though. You guys still grow fruits all
Oh
across.
yeah.
Yeah,
Oh yeah.
but no,
There's lots of farming.
but that's the thing. It's like that's a lot of big ag where you guys are at, though. I imagine. Like for me, it's a lot of like boutique, like small farms because there's rich people around here. So someone like me who isn't rich can actually get some pretty high quality food for an affordable price because
No,
these.
that's about the same here. That's weird that you say that because it actually is where we are right now is more boutique like small farm shit. When you're talking about the 40% of California that is agriculture, it's almost all
Like
Sacramento and lower. So
Which
there's
is like 2 hours away from
there's
us.
near Mount Shasta.
industrial food
That's
farms. Yeah.
I
Yeah.
remember
Yeah.
we talked about this before. I don't know why
Yeah.
I put you guys in my head in Arizona, but you guys are in the Mount Shasta region. Okay, that makes
Yeah. No, so it's a lot smaller farms up here. We have local, like, milk or dairies or whatever. But anything south of Sacramento, that is industrialized farming, and it's disgusting because we went down there one time, down to a military base down there because we're feds. And
To visit our sister-in-law.
yeah, and it smelled so bad, and you could see the like McDonald's style farming, industrialized shit, and it's terrible. Like it's cows walking around in their own shit and mud, and then like 38 days later they slaughter them for your
And
meat.
then
It's
across the
gross.
street was an onion farm. So it was
Oh,
cows and onions. So that smell in the summertime,
they could have mixed
that's what we
worse
smelled.
things than cows and onions, but no, up here though, like you can find farmers that have a whole cow for sale for whatever, or you can go in and buy a half a cow or whatever.
But
You
we
can
do have
find
to
stuff like that.
we do have to drive a little bit. So there's a couple places that are about 45 minutes away, kind of like you were saying, you drive a little bit, but they have pumpkins and apples and tomatoes, everything that you want, but it's 45 minutes of a drive, and it's
right.
not super expensive, but you got to drive to get there. It's
Yeah.
not right down the street or anything like that. And I remember that when I lived in Massachusetts too. We drive to get corn, and it would be, I don't know, 30 minutes,
You
but we'd
drive
get
to get corn?
but my mom wanted really
Corn.
fresh corn, and it was amazing. It was
Yeah.
great corn in Massachusetts. Sorry, we didn't live in they don't mass produce corn in Massachusetts, but
Really
this
got a
place
ton
had
of
the
farms,
best corn.
especially when like I'm on the border. So if I go north into Western Mass, there's a ton of farms for sure.
Mhm.
Yeah, no, I love talking about this kind of stuff, because it is interesting, but at the same turn of the coin, like, none of those farmers can do anything if the government chooses to spray stuff in the sky on their crops, right? So there's always going to be some kind of catch, and there's always some kind of thing that you got to be wary of. So the number one thing is to grow it yourself, right? I mean, yeah, support the community if you can, and if you can't grow it yourself, obviously you have to, but growing it yourself, that's that big hurdle that I'm facing right now. I've even thought of like, because I don't have land, I just rent an apartment. So, but there's a ton of like open space near me. So I'm like, how hard would it be to like hike out into the woods and like find a little spot and then just like make my own like little garden there and then just hike and have my own produce out there and just hike for it. It's, the same thing as driving 30 minutes, but
Dude, that's the dream though,
That's an
is
awesome
having
idea.
something like that. But you have people that want to do that. It's like communism, except it works. So we got to figure that out first. But
But you'd be constantly worried because you wouldn't be able to protect. It wouldn't be right there by you. You'd have to do something to build up something around it,
a
just
wall.
in case.
It would
No,
have
not build a wall.
it would have to be like potatoes and things like that grow underground so that
So
like
you can grow. We grew potatoes, and I was just gonna say that. That's so funny. When you said when you rent and you don't have land, we do have a little bit of land, but I still grew potatoes in buckets because I didn't want to dig up our yard, and we had a bunch of buckets. So I just stuck a bunch of dirt in it and put some potatoes with eyes in there, and we grew a bunch of little mini potatoes. They didn't come out fantastic, okay?
But they're
I'm
also
still
organic.
learning. They are organic,
Like
yeah,
that's
for
why
sure.
they're small, is because they're not pumped full of shit.
That's true. But you can grow potatoes in your house if you don't have cats or animals that are going to eat them. You can dedicate a small section of your home to just growing potatoes in buckets. But I would they do have to have a drainage point. So you might want to put them in a bag or something like that too, so the water can drain out. Maybe elevate them on something and put like a plastic bag around it. And then you can drain that periodically. But you could absolutely grow potatoes in your house
You can grow whatever you want in your house.
and tomatoes too.
If you have the right setup, you can grow pretty much fucking anything, but that gets expensive too, and then you're relying on, electricity and all that stuff.
We have lemon trees. We have like 8 lemon trees. I started them all in our house.
oh wow.
And they stayed in our house for like a year. It was during 2020. I was super bored. Wasn't allowed to leave. We're in California.
We left anyway.
We did. Yeah, that's when I started door dashing also, whatever. But I started our lemon trees and they're still alive now, 4 years later.
Oh, yeah.
And in 5 more years, they'll produce a lemon maybe.
And then maybe if it goes full Mad Max, we can suck on lemons to survive. So I didn't want to like switch gears too much, but I kind of wanted to get your thoughts on the current state of the world, not necessarily political, because that doesn't fucking matter really, but it does affect our lives a little bit. But like, what are you planning on doing anything, or do you have a bug out bag, or like what's going on in your head this year, especially being another election year? I can't believe it's been 4 years since we did a live erection show with Joe Biden versus Trump, and now it's it might as well be Joe Biden versus Trump, but now it's Kamala versus Trump. But all politics aside, like, where do you see the next year, maybe 4 going? Are you planning on doing the same fucking thing you've always done and just whatever?
No, well, I already did switch things up, right? Because, part of the appeal of moving where I live now is that there's less people, right? So if there is some kind of COVID situation, like that would be the only thing that I'm really concerned with, is that people are going to tell me I have to wear a mask or close down stores and those kind of things. Politics never really affects my day-to-day life, really. I don't work in a realm where politics does affect me unless I choose to talk about it, I guess. Podcasts certainly can get political, but
Your white privilege is showing.
But it's not like I work for some company. Like I know tons of people who they work for, maybe like because where I used to live, there's like the helicopter factory, right? So people who work at that helicopter factory, they don't mind seeing a war because they know they're going to make more money and they're going to sell more helicopters, right? So I don't have some kind of job like that where, I'm invested in what happens in the world. I'm invested in the world, I guess, having internet. So, yeah, I don't know. I'm worried about EMPs, but no, I don't really think like that, because part of my philosophy is you kind of lie in the bed you make for yourself. So if you're always worried about the things going on in the world, those things are going to start to affect you in a bigger way. And I'm not saying, stick your head in the sand and just be naive and ignorant, but there's a certain degree you have to let that go and just
Not give a shit.
Yeah. For me, it's a little bit more zen than just not giving a shit. And I'm not just trying to like put myself on a pedestal or whatever, but like I don't give a shit, but I don't really resonate with that. Like truthfully, I don't give a shit, but I do give a shit. Like, there is a matter of like giving a shit. And part of how I give a shit is by having this perspective, because
Well, there's a
Because you
difference.
recognize that it's there and you're like, I'm not going to let it affect me. It's there. It's going to
just
affect other
that,
people.
That's exactly
just
what I was
that,
gonna say.
but
Is there's a difference between not giving a shit and not letting the stupid shit affect you. That would
well,
be the
yeah,
difference.
that's true. I'm not. I wouldn't debate that, but I guess what I'm saying is a little bit beyond that too, where like I'm not just not giving a shit. I give a shit so much that I'm not going to let that shit affect you. And then to go a step beyond that, because if I don't let it affect me, the world will then become a better place. Not only will my life be easier to manage, which will make my life a better place, but that in turn will affect the people around me, and in a larger scale, affect the world. It really will. I mean, it sounds cheesy to be the change you wish to see in the world, especially in our meme culture, but it's the truth. So if you let the news affect you, then you're letting the news manipulate you, because the news or the media, these companies, the federal government, they need your consent. They need your free will. That's what your signature is all about. Your signature is the only thing that gives our money value. When you sign your credit card statements, that's what gives all that value, right? So it's the same thing. When you give your attention, it's the same thing as signing your name onto something, right? So I'm not trying to deflect from your question, because I guess the truth is like, I'm just going to keep going with what's in front of me. Like this thing with apathy, this podcast, that's, a sign to me personally that I'm on the right track. Because here's somebody who's like, their music has affected me. I've listened to it since I was like literally like 12 or 13. I've known about, this genre and these groups of artists, and they've played a big role in me getting to this point where I know all this stuff, because Jedi Mind Tricks, Army of the Pharaohs, Apathy, like, these rappers and rap groups, like they were including conspiracy theory references and real takes on what's going on in the world. So that informed where I am now, and the fact that just transpired in the way it did to where now I'm working with this person. For me, it's like a sign. It's like, oh, okay, like something is going in the right direction. It's the same thing that happened with Sam Tripoli, because I quit my job to start a podcast, and then all of a sudden Sam's like, yeah, you can work with me. I need a crazy guy like you who knows a ton of other crazy people, because that's all I do is a a booker. Like, I'm just finding other interesting people for Sam to talk to. It's not an easy job, but it's not tremendously hard. I love it, right? I don't know that everybody's like, particularly cut out for it, but it's led to all these opportunities like the one I'm in
No,
now.
it's entrepreneurial, and you're doing what you want to do, and it's okay. So they say if you like what you do, you'll never work a day in your life. How many people can say that? Almost fucking nobody. It's very rare. So
And it
if you
should be
can even
challenging a little
tolerate
bit.
what you do, I think that's a win.
Yeah, for sure.
More people than you think. A lot of the folks I talk to on my podcast are in that position. Like attracts like. I tend to talk to people who are in a similar position, and maybe certain jobs are like that. Authors, they tend to have money somehow. I mean, unless they get a book deal, but a lot of the authors I talk to, excuse me, are living in a similar vein, where they take some kind of risk and it's worth writing about, and then they write about it, and then they do well selling their book, or they find something interesting to write about and they make that their life. I've kind of done that in some ways with my like Skull and Bones research that we've talked about on this show. But I don't know. It's I'm not even like blaming that, but it's almost like the more I became invested in it, and I still am interested and I still will continue with the research, but I have to like step away from it every now and then. And that's kind of the period I'm
Oh
in
yeah.
right now, because like the Skull and Bones topic, it's really dark, and it can kind of pull you into this dark mindset and seeing this world in this really dark way. And there's a truth in that, but it's the same reason I don't watch the news, that I'm not going to like become obsessed with researching Skull and Bones. I know a lot about it. I'm going to continue to learn about it. It's something that's sort of just fallen into my lap, so to speak, as far as like your life path goes. But I have to walk away from it at certain points in my year or in my routine, because it's just, it takes a certain anchoring to be in that state of mind, and I'm just not there right now. So I don't mean to sound like a disappointment or like, oh, well, I can't talk about any of that stuff right now because all I've been thinking about is myself lately. But that's the truth. Like, it's unfortunately the truth. And, you know, with the podcast, it's easy to step out of that, you know, because I'm always interviewing people. But when I'm in a situation like this where I'm being interviewed lately, it's been a little difficult to like come up with things to talk about. But for the most part, I'm kind of led back to this synchromysticism topic because I think I have, I live as an example of its proof. Like it does work. Like you can take your life and change it for the better if you believe in yourself. That's all I did. You know, I believed in myself. I was upset with, you know, I've told you guys this story before. I quit my job at Amazon because they were putting the temperature laser gun in our face every day and saying, oh, if you have a fever, you're going to be sent home from work, which that doesn't even scientifically make sense, because a fever is like, a fever is your body responding correctly to some kind of whatever pathogen, right? So even
It's
if
probably actually better than not popping a fever if you are sick.
right.
Yeah.
Like if I'm having a fever, that means my body's doing what it's supposed to do. So, and also they were doing this in July in Connecticut. So it's like hot out. So it's like, yeah, of course my body's going to be 96, 98 degrees or maybe a little bit more. Like, you know, like, come on now. Like, it's just so stupid. So I
It
got,
fluctuates, bro. It's
yeah,
fine.
well, especially me, I'm a hothead. You start putting like a temperature gun in my face, like now I'm pissed. Now my blood's literally boiling.
Oh
So
my
I
God.
a fever, right? So, and that's what I did. I told everybody off. I said, "Screw you guys. I'm out of here." I left the job site in like a, I don't know, like I think I left in my van and then continued the work day, but I don't even remember that day. But either way, a week later, I was fired, and I'm glad that happened
Fuck
because
them.
I wouldn't be sitting here if I didn't. I'd probably be sitting in a truck, you know, delivering packages still, which there,
Yeah. Hey, don't bring that up, dude. I still do that, okay? But
Not for Amazon.
it
well,
does
listen,
pay for some stuff. But I wanted to circle back a little bit, real quick, rewind. So when you're talking about uh, we are under philosophy on iTunes, so I feel like this is appropriate. But when you're talking about the the dividing line between not giving a fuck and giving a fuck, that's a real thin fucking line, because you do, like you said, you give a lot of a fuck, but you can't let it affect yourself. So where is that line for you? Because you'll have people come in and say you have to give a fuck about all of these things because of blah blah blah, whatever. Where's your line on that? Like, to me, and it seems selfish, but to me, the line for me is where I give a fuck is where it has to do with my circle. You'll have people come in and say, well, you have to give a fuck about the whole world. That's exhausting, first of all, and nobody can do that. Second,
yeah.
so where's your, like, I guess, where's your radius out from your personal, stance? Because for me, it's, I don't give a fuck about Capital One or all these banks or Israel, nuke each other, whatever. But it does have ripple effects on everybody. So like, where's your line when it comes to how far out you give a fuck?
Yeah, I think I have a similar line, you know, if it affects my family, I'm very concerned about it. And that was the case with the whole pandemic. Like everybody was kind of affected by that. With the whole nuking situation, yeah, that if what they say about nukes is true, then that would affect all of us too, right? So, but no, I think
That's a big if.
yeah, I know, right? It is. But to my earlier point, I think, you know, you're in line with that philosophy of like, you know, don't go stressing about the things that are outside of your control, because those aren't going to help you. And in turn, like when you focus on yourself and your loved ones, the people who depend on you and you're responsible for, and you make sure your life and their life is great, the reality you're in matches that. And it's so weird because it's like I don't know, it's like like an illusion or something. Like you can look at those pictures and see a rabbit, or you can see, what is it, a duck, right? And like both are
Oh, the
there.
ink blot shit.
Yeah, like both are there. The duck and the rabbit are both there. But if you look at the duck and you see the duck, you see the duck. If you see the rabbit, you can switch back and forth. But I think for some people, they get stuck on seeing life one way, and then life mirrors that, and it starts to spiral. So for me, it's almost like mental self-defense to not take in what's going on in the world in a way that it doesn't that I can't control. Like when it's on the podcast, I can control it because I can say, oh, well, let's learn about the history of this situation rather than someone just yelling at me and telling me why I'm wrong, right? Like I don't do really debate podcasts. I think I've done a few since I started podcasting, but it's not something I seek out because, what end does that, to what end?
It doesn't end well. I've seen that a million times in trying to do debates in this community, in particular, and it never works out great because it's really weird for a community that says they're open-minded to be so close-minded to something that's a half a degree off of what they think. It just becomes an argument, and it's like, you said you were open-minded though. Like, I don't know. Speaking about a half a degree, we got Brandon
Hey,
Thomas
Brandon.
coming in right
It's coming in the last, 10 minutes? Y'all still doing this? That's what I messaged you. Just left a class. So cool to see
now.
you. The invite.
Hello.
I haven't checked my phone because I have to pee.
No worries.
There it is. Yep, it's still on. Yes, sir. So we've been talking about all kinds of stuff, dude. Like, do you have anything to bring to us? Because I have to pee, so I'll toss it over to you. You can be the host. Do it.
Mark, dude, you're awesome. Is that a real plant back there?
Yeah, it's a money tree is the name of it. I don't know the actual species name, but yeah, it's called a money tree.
Monius especialis.
Love it.
I almost rescued one from the grocery outlet the other day. They
Oh,
all
yeah.
looked like they were dying, and I was like, I don't need money, but I just really want to rescue this tree.
I
didn't
like
buy it,
money.
though. I don't know.
Brought a lot of ladybugs into my apartment. They are constantly flying around on the ceiling.
Dude, if there was a
That's
bug
good
I
luck,
could
right?
have in my apartment, it would be ladybugs. Those shits are awesome.
Okay, well, actually, in New England, like 20 years ago, they created these beetles. So they bred ladybugs with some sort of beetle, and they made pumpkin beetles. I don't know if you've ever heard of this, but they were this invasive species that ended up overpowering every house in Massachusetts and I guess New England in, like, I don't know, the way early 90s. They were all over the place. And it was like a college that created these bugs. It was ridiculous.
Aren't they said
Bill
mosquitoes
Gates.
loose with all kinds of technology in them too? That if they bite you, it changes your blood, so now you're property. Did we just
I
do
don't
a
know.
rabbit hole you guys want to talk about?
I was going to
We
say
can do that.
reminds
Is that
me
a thing you know about? Oh, Jesus.
Yeah, I'm down.
Genetically modified, and then your property at that point because it changes your. That's what the. Are we worried about censorship or anything? Can we talk about
No,
the little
no,
poking?
no, no. You're fine. You can say anything.
Yeah, dude. So the shot thing, the mRNA allegedly alters your DNA structure to a point where it's in its proprietary technology. So you're technically sort of, I don't know, owned, right? Isn't that how that works? But if they slip it into some sort of mosquito-like apparatus that they just send off in a bunch of helicopters, which is what Bill Gates did out in Florida, it's pretty wild.
But how do you become owned?
It's because it changes your DNA to a proprietary element. So
Is
the thing
DNA owned though? So where do they scan you and decide that you're owned?
what it changes is you change into something owned partially by them by the patent because of what's in you. It's
Oh,
this
and you
weird
don't even
shit
know.
having to do with altering. Yeah, the mRNA because it's proprietary technology now that you have in you that's part of theirs. It's sort of like if a seed from a GMO crop blows onto some other farmer's property, they have a right to sue that guy because it's their seed, even though like they didn't plant it directly, it's still their property. It's this weird world that we live in.
Yeah. I'd never heard of the pumpkin beetle thing. And now that I'm looking up the pumpkin beetle, there's definitely multiple species of insect that have been nicknamed pumpkin beetle, but it reminds me of the whole lanternfly thing, which
Oh, I don't know what that is.
for people, I don't know if this has made its way past even like the Appalachian Mountains yet. Hopefully it will never, but all across like major cities in the East Coast, particularly Philadelphia, Washington, D.C., New York City, and anywhere in between, there's like an invasion of lanternflies. They haven't really made their way past New York City. I rarely see them up this way. I think it's too cold for them up this way where I live. But yeah, anytime I go to like Philadelphia or New York City, there's just lanternflies all over the city. And they're like these big, bright red bugs, and they
Ugh.
look really weird. And you squash them, and they're like gushers or something. Like they explode, like they're crazy. And that there's some kind of Chinese, weapon, bio weapon or something. Because you don't think about the effect of like an insect, but it affects trees, and then you have less trees in a city, it becomes like an unhealthy place to live. And the East Coast is known for having beautiful cities with tons of trees for the most part, like New York City, Philadelphia. There's tons of trees. Like it's not
Yeah,
like
New York City is known for its trees.
not
I
meant
knew you were gonna say that.
Fertilized by all the bum poo, right?
not Manhattan, but I mean Central Park. But yeah, like you drive around like Queens or Brooklyn, like it's a city, but there's tons of foliage.
That is true. I know you. Joe just thinks that there's just like buildings, like skyscrapers
I've
that are
been there.
futuristic as fuck, that it's just like 2077 up in New York City right now.
No. It looks like shit, but I've seen it, and it is a lot of
You
buildings.
saw it like 20 years ago. There were probably more trees there than there are now, and you still
You're
don't
not
think there
adding
are
to
trees
your
there.
argument.
No, but there are more trees than you actually saw.
Joe, I live in a similar. If you're near Mount Shasta, where I live, looks similar, but unfortunately, it's only an hour or two away from New York City, and I don't go there very often because I share your sentiment. But there are beautiful spots, as Jen knows, being a fellow New Englander.
Yeah, like I would go there occasionally. I drove there once. I drove there 2001, Y2K. I drove to New York City for New Year's Eve, but I got there way late because I was 21 and I was super responsible. And we got there at like 4 a.m. All the confetti was all over the place and the city was still standing. And I was like, ugh, boring. Now we have a 4-hour drive back.
Wow, escaping New York City with Jen.
Yeah, super lame. So, all right. So I have a weird thing. You were talking about how when you were working at Amazon and you just had it, and that's what led you to where you are now, and you're super happy. So do you feel like there is something maybe in our phones, in the TikTok thing that's going on right now, where we are forced to work jobs that we all kind of hate, but we have these little quick moments of happiness that keep us okay enough to keep doing those jobs, to keep us from hitting rock bottom? This is a thing I've been thinking of lately, because when people hit rock bottom, that's when they say, fuck you. I literally don't give a fuck about anything else. Like, I care about my family, but I am making changes right now. But I feel like there's this complacency that's happening where people aren't hitting that rock bottom phase that they kind of need to hit, that would project them into a more positive future for themselves. I don't know. I kind of see that as like a trend. I'm not sure if you guys feel that way.
I don't disagree with it. I definitely have no reason to disagree with that observation for sure. Because I don't know. I've always been like unpopular until this podcast started. Apparently, people like me, but I've always been unpopular, honestly. Like high school, after high school, college, like I have friends, but I'm not like somebody everybody wants to know for whatever reason. So my social media was never something I was interested in. Instagram, I never had really a ton of people on there. So I was never a part of that like social media obsession, even like now. Like it's hard for me to like keep up with the Instagram, which I should because it's good for the podcast. But I feel like that's been a positive thing in my life. And really, you know, what I can say about the placating is video games. And I don't mean to put anybody like in a weird spot because like, hey, I played video games too, but I've become kind of like an anti-video game person over time. And I know for some people, like if you have a job and you got your life together, go ahead, play video games. But for me, I did not have my life together. I was living at my dad's house and I was playing video games, and it was just like placating me. and not letting me realize how shitty my life was because I had this fun outlet. And, you know, the friends I had before I started this podcast, I'm not really that close with anymore because they're so ingrained in video games, and good for them because they have jobs and it's a healthy outlet for them. But for me, it was not a healthy outlet whatsoever. So if that's what it is for phones for some people, I could definitely see that being the case more with like young women, you know, trying to fit in and all the pressures that come with being a young woman. But personally, myself, like I never felt attached to my phone, like especially when I was younger. Like I would leave my phone behind and go out and do stuff. You know, like now I need to have it on me. You know, in case somebody needs me for whatever reason, which is. But yeah, I can see how it is a detrimental like a thing to be placated like that because that's what I experienced with like video games, being mildly addicted to video games when I was younger. You know, we would just play, and it was like it wasn't even anything to be proud of. Like we would just play in Grand Theft Auto lobbies online multiplayer. Like we're not stacking up accomplishments. We're not like, you know, winning levels or prizes. We're just shooting each other in a fake world over and over again
It
with
was just a release. It was just something, it was an escape in a way. And I'm not saying that shouldn't exist. I just feel like that these things that are presented to us now, that we have the technology to have that, it allows us to also do these ridiculous jobs. Like people will just work themselves to death just to come home and be like, well, I can drink a fucking case of beer and play my video games or watch my shows or do whatever. I'm also not even shitting on this or saying it's bad. If you want to do that, that's totally fine. I just feel like it's projecting us into this interesting future, possibly. I don't know.
well, yeah, especially with, you know, what are they doing now? They want everybody wearing Google lenses and all that. So yeah, for sure. I mean, we're heading into cyborg territory where half the people in the world are gonna have these like augmented reality glasses on, and for a
Hey,
while.
let them. To
Yeah.
me, I'm like, you know what? Let them. The people that want to do that, let them. And when you guys are talking about, you know, your different lifestyle, coming home to a video game or whatever way you unwind, there's some people that come home from their job and unwind by running 3 miles. If that's what does
That's
it for
great.
you, go ahead. That's the semi-libertarian in me. I'm like, go ahead, do whatever. The only problem I have is if you're running a mile and you have to run a mile over someone's cabbage patch and fuck it up, then I have a problem with that.
But the people
Run
with
somewhere else.
the people who are going to be cyborgs, humans are competitive by nature. I'm not saying I am or I would care. I might though. I don't know. I honestly don't know. I've never been presented with this, but if everyone around you started being augmented and doing better and getting the jobs that you wanted
move the
and
fuck
taking
out.
over, then I'm not saying you, it's the you understood. I'm not saying you in particular. It's the you in general might feel compelled to get that augmentation as well so that you can also be competitive.
No, it's the social contagion. Like there's plenty of books and shows on this. The social contagion is probably the worst part of any of this, where things are moved by social pressure. So there, especially when you live in a big city like New York City or something like that, where everybody's moved in this weird way where they're like, this is what everybody's doing, and there's 900,000 people around you doing the same thing. It's so much harder to resist something like that. So if you live in a small community, then you look like a Luddite, somebody who's anti-technology, because you're like, I don't want to do this.
The Amish, I
So
mean, they don't need to change for anyone because they have everything they need, you know. And it's the same like thing we were talking about earlier with food. Like you don't need to compete with people who are augmenting their reality if you have all what you need in your own property, you know, like
Yeah,
Brandon.
that's what I
right.
agree. Yeah, I would encourage people to do all of that. That's what we're trying to do. We're we're getting better
A slow
every year.
start.
Yeah, it's a slow start, but we're trying.
Well, and you know, I don't mean to put Brandon up on a pedestal now either, but he's a good example of it. Like from my conversations with him, like yeah, from what I've gathered, I haven't talked to you in a while, Brandon, but if you're still doing good, I hope you are. You're living pretty self-sufficiently, and I think that's something that a lot of people are gonna gravitate towards, because yeah, the world's becoming this way, and it happened with the pandemic. Now it's going to happen with this VR AI craziness that's just going to keep ramping up. What was it? Amazon bought 3 Mile Island so that they can have like a nuclear power for their data center, which that's on the same river where like the computer was essentially invented in the first place. So there's a whole, mystical element to that. But yeah, Jeff Bezos recently bought 3 Mile Island. I don't know. Maybe you guys remember, that was before my time, but yeah, 3 Mile Island exploded in Pennsylvania, and, they're just going to start it up again.
Whoa.
It
Brandon,
reminds
do you have any intel
Yeah,
on that?
it reminds me of building temples on top of another, how Baalbek is built on top of another thing, and how the uh older civilizations came after the Olmecs that didn't do as good of a job, right? Were evident in that. And it's just interesting how these similar geographical locations seem to be used for cyclical purposes, which is again fascinating. It's sort of this full circle type of a deal, and I'm seeing it now that I've had a couple of cycles in me. I just hit level 42, and so I'm just kind of on this ride where I'm done being pissed at the ocean or that I'm on a water world. I'm just getting better at surfing. You know what I mean? Because this place is fucking chaos and we're not meant for it. But you can,
Ride the wave, brah.
yeah, that's it. You just fucking get out there and hang 10, bring back Cowabunga if you'd like. But it's an interesting place. And really to what you guys were talking about earlier is, yeah, you can do whatever the hell you want. Now, we're all in video and audio production. And what's the thing about that, right? When you get into the gear, when you get into all the options that you have, you can do, the best news is you can do anything you want. The worst news is you can do
You
anything
can
you
do anything you want.
nailed it. So the whole point of that is it's about priority, right? So I was a little late in joining you guys here this evening, and thank you for the invite again. Due to I was in a trust class, and it's a regular class that I meet with, and I also take a couple of other things with these people invested in, and I'm choosing to supplement my time now on fucking yes, I do have a copy of the Constitution, and I'm just reading this thing, and copy of my straw man and UCC
You're
code.
obviously MAGA, so
So I'm none of that shit. I'm out of the game completely. Uh I'm out of that statue. This is the thing is I'm seeing it so clearly, and it's where I had the dissonance early on in my life. Like, why did I hang the US flag upside down? And I'm like, oh, because it's a corporation that I don't work for, and that's a shitty corporation actually. And so I don't, want to associate with that, but there has to be a way. And so now I'm learning that there is, and all my intuitive feelings about being fucked into a system that didn't feel right anyway are true. And now I don't even feel that it's not possible, but now it's absolutely not only possible, but that I have a big responsibility in delivering the message. So I'm very invested in what's going on with this. With me, I've got whole board that I made, revocation of election, all kinds of things going on with e-verify and passports, and just really it's about understanding the language that's going on all around you all the time, but by seeing that they're throwing video games and sports and Kardashians and shit at you so you don't see this. So that you think reading the Constitution's lame, and that you think that knowing the language of the courts and really what the gold flag with the eagle with the wings up means. That's a maritime court. That's civil, it's criminal court. The wings are down and there's no fringe around it. That's civil. That's trust court, right? So there's different ways to navigate this place to where it's right in front of you all the time, just like the symbolism, but it's to be able to curate out the noise. And that is about focusing on priorities. There you go. So it's really like, but also to that, I'm going to say that to Mouse's observation in The Matrix, when he's sitting there eating the slop with Neo, and but Dozer's telling him it has everything the body needs, Mouse disagrees, and I agree with Mouse. And Mouse says it doesn't have everything the body needs. And what he was implying there is that the human body needs fucking more. We need substance. We need to walk outside. We need to be able to play video games. And it's like, yeah, fuck yeah, do that. And especially if you're into this kind of shit, because you're going to need an integration period for your mind to sort of work in a
it's
different way.
called balance.
Right. And you got to have these nothing boxes, as it were. I mean, they're vitally important to this growth. So it's not, it's a beautiful thing though, but it's all about priority, guys. That's all it is. What
No,
noise.
I love that you brought that up, because that is kind of where I was going with that, is that everybody has their own balance. Some people are, oh, I'm going to watch this football game and delve into the stats of this and just mindlessly at work tomorrow rattle off like all these stats of these football players. I have to deal with that at my work, and all I hear is a high pitched whine every time I hear somebody talk about this. But I get it. I'm like, it would be like if I was trying to talk to you about Zelda or whatever stupid show I was watching. Like, I get it. That's your fucking release from the Matrix is, paying attention to these minute details that mean nothing to anybody unless you're paying attention to it. And that's fine. Like, everybody's got their own fucking thing. If your, escape is smoking a shitload of weed and staring at the stars at night and being like, I saw this constellation tonight, that's your sports. That's your fucking football game that you just watched. Good for you. Do whatever you got to do to keep yourself sane. Keep it balanced.
Yeah, it's literally about priority of breaths. How do you want to spend it? What do you want to grow in your life? That's just the question I kept asking myself. What do I want to grow? And if I was paying attention to things that sucked, that increased. And if I didn't and paid attention to the things in more abundance, handle business, right? It's not spiritual bypassing we're talking about. Handle business. But if I focused more on the things that I wish to grow, man, they grew like crazy and beautifully, and the weeds just don't have any room. There's no room for bullshit in my garden. So it's fascinating, man.
No, I love it. Yeah, I don't know how else to go from here except toss it over to Mark and give him a chance to share his words of wisdom before we close out tonight.
Oh, right on. Well, it's always a
Your
pleasure.
glasses change colors, by the way.
No, I just changed my glasses. You didn't see.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. I was gonna mention that. I wasn't just trying to pull one over on you guys, but yeah, no, the glasses, I went from the daylight to the nightlight lenses because I'm trying to wind down as we wind down this podcast. So yeah, the darker color tint gets your eyes adjusted like before bed, basically. So for the next few hours that I'm awake, these will be helping me fall asleep, even though I've had like I don't know how many milligrams of caffeine to sleep at this point. So yeah, just doing a little bio
Or
hack.
THC.
Yeah, well, the THC, surprisingly, people think it makes you sleepy. It just keeps me up. So yeah, but these glasses make me sleepy, legit. Like, so if you have trouble falling asleep, look into them because I'll be sitting here and I'll be like, oh my God, I can't even use my computer anymore. And I'll just fall asleep and I'll have to go into. So, anyways, it's always a pleasure to be here on Legit Bat. And I think, synchronistically speaking, like you're going to find the signs that are going to lead you to the life that you're meant to be living. It's just a matter of being aware of them, and some people, they got to go through hardship. I sit here and I talk about like the highlights, but there's been lowlights too. Like I've gone through some lows and some highs to get to this point. So I'm not over here doing a victory lap and expecting high fives all the way. Like I hope that people hear what I say, get mad a little bit, like F this guy, I could do that, and then actually do it, because that's how I felt when I used to listen to podcasts, and I would be like, yeah, that's great and all, but and then I actually did it, and now I think about it, I'm like, oh, maybe that's why I was so frustrated hearing people who were successful, because I didn't know what that was like, so it's uncomfortable for me. I'd rather come here and talk about like Skull and Bones or whatever research I've done, but at the same time, like talking about the progress and the things that happen in our lives, it's a very positive thing to do, not just for the people participating, but for the people listening too. Like,
No, I think they love that too. Like, as far as I can tell, sometimes a break from the abnorm, as they say, is great. Like they like hearing people that make content all the time just talk about their own shit sometimes. It makes people feel not as alone, maybe. And I'm saying that from a person that listens to podcasts regularly. And I love it when the shows that I love, they're talking about aliens or whatever the fuck. When they talk about their own lives, it kind of brings it down to your level, and you're like, oh, they are just normal people who have the same shit going on. I think people like that.
That point, the weirdest thing happened to me. I'm walking through a grocery store a month ago, and some guy was staring at me, and in my old self might have been like, why is this dude staring at me? But this person that I am now knows that people listen to my podcast, so my first thought wasn't, why is this dude staring at me? My first thought was like, hey, what's your name? So this guy, he's just staring at me. I'm like, hey, what's your name? And he's like, are you Mystic Mark? And I'm like, yeah, which was so crazy because, like that has happened at Sam Tripoli's shows, but it's expected, it's Sam Tripoli's show. Like people are coming there because they know about podcasts. But I'm just walking through a random grocery store that I go to at least a couple times a month, and this guy listens to my podcast, and it was really a cool feeling. It's a little uncomfortable too because I'm like, oh my gosh, like did I put deodorant on today? Like, like
You didn't.
made me think twice. No, I didn't. Made me,
Fly is open every time. Yeah.
yeah, made me think of like, well, geez, does this change how I leave the house? But yeah, no, it's really cool, and I feel like, yeah, that guy, whoever he is, I don't want to say his name because he didn't ask to be talked about, but yeah, like he didn't expect to see me there, but I'm just a real guy who needs groceries too, so it's kind of cool to
What, you're saying you have to eat food? That's crazy.
the
So if I were to see you at the store, I would not notice you, and not because I don't know you. It's because I would only see up to your left nut, and I'd be like, oh, there's pants in a nut sack, and then I'd have to look up further to be like, oh shit, it's Mark.
scraping the ceiling of every store I go.
Damn, you can't bring your giraffe in here. Oh, it's just Mark.
Oh yeah.
Oh my god.
What
It's
is
funny.
this guy?
You look like a normal size, Mark, but it's funny because Joe and I are exactly the same size when we're sitting down as we are standing
I'm
up.
taller laying down, just so you know.
No, my hat maybe gives me height, but yeah, Joe's like 2 inches, maybe a little less taller than me.
It's like an inch and a half.
We're the
but thank
perfect
you.
kissing height, though. Our faces are right there. I look at the silver lining.
Not everyone's
Yeah.
not exactly a surplus of 7-foot tall models running around where I live. So I haven't quite met someone at kissing height, but that's cool to know that exists for you guys.
It can happen. You have to go to Poland, I think, or I think it's somewhere over there where they're like 7, 8 or something. I don't know.
Yeah, it's like Pleiadians.
I've never been there.
That,
Yeah.
that would be crazy tall, but yeah, no. Yeah. So I don't know. I don't know how that relates to what you asked me, but I feel like
I don't know.
if anything, people can take from what I have to say that, you can change your life in a positive direction. It's not that hard. You just have to take a risk, and then pretty soon people will be recognizing you in a grocery store.
I actually would not like that. I would actually rather be so rich that nobody recognizes me. But so
I like what he's saying, though. Luck favors the brave, and just be kind to everyone.
no,
and
no,
be good
I
to
get what you're
yourself.
saying. I just, whatever.
The universe rewards the risk taker. Right?
Hmm.
Are you a risk taker, Brandon?
Okay, we all are.
Really?
We all are.
Okay.
Every single person sitting here, you're putting your voice out, you're putting yourself out authentically so that others may do the same. You're shining the light in a weird, dark, fucking weird realm. I mean, yeah, we're crushing it, guys. All of
You're
you out there.
especially dark right now. Like, what happened?
No,
Did you
I'm
not
in the
make
dark.
dinner
I'm-
fast enough
no,
tonight, or
no, I
what?
didn't-
Like,
no,
you're
I don't
hiding a
He's
black
on his
eye?
phone.
I don't have the studio and shit on, so I'm on the laptop. Yokai and I are laying here. I was at a dealership all day, and then I just got off a 2.5-hour trust class, learning about how to make trusts.
I know. I'm just fucking
Well,
with you,
we'll have to
Brandon.
do an
Well, I'm just
exact
like in
show
this-
on
in
that.
this chill mode, you know.
Yeah,
Actually,
that's fine.
now that you mentioned that, we're having Brandon Joe Williams on, I think, next month. So maybe you want to jump in on that.
That'd be fun. Yeah. I got some new questions for him and stuff because I've learned so much. There's just so much here, guys. It's
Oh
so
yeah. No, it's too much. And if you want to learn more about that stuff, I mean, follow onestupidfuck.com. But it's too much for me right now. I'm too busy, doing my Matrix job and making sure that I pay my electric bill. I can't deal with all that stuff as anybody else.
on your electric bill to pay to the order of the U.S. Treasury and that it's redeemable and lawful money, and that actually takes care of it. That counts as lawful money. You have the ability to do that.
Stop making sense.
So you don't
Stop
have
it.
What I'm saying is that the job you're going to do the things that you're justifying for, you can simply not do. So I'm just saying it's empowering is all.
You're making me uncomfortable.
I
No,
love
I
you.
love this because this is this is what I'm escaping right now, and I'm escaping my job, and I'm trying to not drag Joe down with me though. This is the hard part of being married. I don't want to drag him down, but I'm also like,
Thank you.
I'm gonna be a DoorDasher forever and just do gig shit and figure out my life and get out of this bullshit that I'm doing. Like the mortgage world, fuck it. I'm sorry, but it's bullshit.
Get
You're
that
just
done.
making rich people richer. I'm over that.
You don't have
Fuck
to.
rich people.
Really don't. Let that be,
I definitely
let
don't.
that be your motivator. Next time you like pick up your dick to jack it off, or like you pick up the thing to play video games or something, go, hang on. I could be freer, huh? I could operate in trust. I don't have to operate with private money, which is Federal Reserve notes, that's why penalties, taxes, and interest exist, because it's a play money. It's a made up thing that has infrastructure that runs for a corporation. It's not even real. So I just don't deal with that anymore. And so that's where this is. That's creating trust is creating jurisdiction. It's it's portable land. Like it's real shit. It's God made it. You know what I mean? It's like it's way above all the nonsense that we feel that we're bound by. And you're just not.
You have to
Yeah,
come
I love
back
this.
for a part
You
2
can
of the
see that
last
I'm
20
fucking fired
seconds.
up about this. I love you guys so much. Thanks, Mark. I love you so much, dude. You're crushing it, dude. You really are. This is awesome.
Thank you. I'm glad to hear you're doing well as well, and I'd love to have you on to talk about what you just dropped on us.
Talk about all of it, and published a new journal. So this is the 8th one in print. It's fucking awesome. Whitney Fox did that cover. Look at that.
Oh, hell
Ooh.
yeah. That's awesome.
Oh, y'all know Whitney, right?
Oh yeah.
Anyway, so
Very
8th one.
nice.
We got a lot to talk about, guys. I love y'all.
Hell yeah. Well, we'll let you guys go. I know you guys are like 3 hours ahead. At least Mark is 3 hours ahead. So we'll get out of here. But everybody have a great night. We will drop all the notes and links and whatever that you guys want. And I think that's about it. Yeah. Go
Thank
with
you guys
God
so much.
via con Dios.
Dios. Yeah, let's get
Is
out of
that
here.
about it?
It drops like Weekend at Bernie's in those glasses, right? You could just fucking knock out at any minute, right?
Yeah. Why
Love
not?
it.